My wife decides what I watch, who I talk to, and how I speak. She mocks me, hits me, then says I'm overreacting. I stayed for our son but cannot stop feeling stuck in this over-controlling marriage. We've been married for 2 years, long enough to know each other's habits, short enough to still remember the version of us that laughed easily. I used to think we were solid, not perfect, but close enough. I used to believe that if you loved someone and showed up every day, things would work. But now I'm not even sure what working looks like. Since becoming parents, my wife has turned into someone I barely know, sharp, cold, and controlling in ways I never expected. It's not just emotional distance, it's active destruction. She tells me what I can watch, who I can talk to, how I should act even when I'm alone. Sometimes I catch myself walking on eggshells in our own kitchen, bracing for a blow-up over something as simple as a wrong word or a pause too long. She hits me not hard enough to leave marks, but hard enough to remind me who's in control. She mocks the things I enjoy, calls me names when she's angry, tells me she can't stand how nerdy I am. Then she doubles down, saying she needs someone more like her. I never know when it's coming, and I never know how long the apology will last afterward, if it comes at all. Our house doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like a test I'm always failing. I try to keep things calm, to focus on our son, to maintain a routine that makes sense. But no matter what I do, it's never enough. There's always something I should have done differently, some invisible rule I broke. The worst part is that I don't even know how we got here. We were supposed to be a team. We were supposed to figure things out together, especially now, especially for our son. But more and more, it feels like I'm just another thing she needs to manage, not a partner she respects. I lie awake at night, sometimes listening to her breathing next to me, wondering if she even sees me anymore. Or if she only sees what she wishes I would be: less sensitive, less nerdy, more aggressive, more man. I'm not perfect. I know that. I'm not pretending I haven't made mistakes. But I didn't expect to be afraid of the person I married. I didn't expect to shrink in my own relationship. And every day I ask myself, is this normal? Is this just what parenting does to a marriage? Or am I slowly losing myself to a situation that isn't okay? Our son is still small. He doesn't understand the tension yet. But I do. And I worry about what happens when he starts noticing the way she speaks to me, the way I flinch sometimes, when she raises her voice, the way I never quite relax. I want to believe that love is enough to fix this. I want to believe that there's still something underneath all the anger that can be saved. But I'm starting to wonder if this is just who she is now. And if so, what does that make me for staying? I don't think most people would believe the kinds of things she controls. It started with little comments, things I brushed off as jokes. She'd tease me about my friends, say I spent too much time talking to them or that they were bad influences. Then it escalated. Suddenly, she was deciding when I could be on the phone and who I was allowed to talk to. She'd give me this flat stare when I mentioned someone she didn't like, and would follow up with sharp questions: why I needed to talk to them, what we had in common, what we were even discussing. Eventually, I just stopped answering certain texts. It wasn't worth the argument. The same thing happened with what I watched online. She hated the fact that I liked gaming videos, or certain creators she found immature. One day I came home and she had unsubscribed from all of them on my account. Just did it. Said she was doing me a favor, helping me grow up. And when I pushed back, she got angry, said I was ungrateful and stubborn, said I was addicted to childish nonsense, and that she was tired of being married to a boy. The physical stuff started after that. Nothing dramatic, no bruises, just sudden slaps to my shoulder or a shove when I said something she didn't like. I tried to convince myself it was stress, that she was just overwhelmed from being a new mom. But it kept happening. Every few weeks, a hit, a shove, a pointed jab with her fingers to my chest. And the words, those were worse. She'd spit venom in the middle of an argument, say she regretted marrying someone so soft. Say I wasn't enough for her, that she deserved someone more assertive, someone who could handle her energy. Then the next day, she'd act like nothing happened. Or worse, she'd smile, kiss my cheek, and ask me what I wanted for dinner. There's this strange, bitter rhythm to it all now. She controls, I comply. She lashes out, I retreat. And when I try to assert myself, to bring up how it makes me feel, she turns it around. Says I'm being dramatic, that I take things too personally, that I twist everything, so I've learned to be quiet. I monitor what I say and when I say it. I close my laptop when she walks into the room. I pretend I'm fine, even when my chest is tight and my stomach won't stop churning. I keep thinking, what kind of marriage is this, where you hide who you are to survive the day, where the only way to avoid conflict is to shrink? And still, I stay. I tell myself, it's just a bad phase. That postpartum changes people. That maybe with time she'll mellow out. But months have passed and nothing's really changed. If anything, it's getting worse. Her tolerance for me is fading and her ability to mask her contempt is unraveling. Sometimes she tells me she's joking, that she's just being blunt, that I should toughen up. And maybe I should. Maybe I'm too sensitive. But deep down I know it's not just me. No one should have to live this way, tiptoeing through their own life trying not to provoke the person they love. I miss being myself. I miss not being afraid of small things, watching a video, texting a friend, laughing too loud. I miss when being married didn't feel like being under surveillance. And more than anything, I miss the version of her who made me feel safe. We started counseling a few weeks ago. It took months of arguments and long, teary standoffs to even get her to agree to go. When she finally relented, it felt like a small win. Like maybe she was starting to see the cracks, maybe she was willing to meet me in the middle and fix this. But after the first session, I knew it wasn't going to be that simple. She walked out of the office scoffing, saying the therapist was biased, that I was painting myself as the victim and making her look crazy. She said therapy was useless unless I was going to be honest, and by honest, she meant obedient. She didn't want to look at herself. She wanted to be validated. Still, we went back the next week, and the one after that. Every time, it's the same routine. She starts out guarded, then opens up just enough to sound cooperative, and the moment we get home, she slips back into the same patterns. Name-calling, dismissiveness, cold, hollow stares. Sometimes I think she agrees to counseling just so she can say she tried. What's worse is that after every session, she uses whatever was said in the room as ammunition. If I admit I feel sad or helpless, she'll throw it back at me during an argument. If I try to bring up one of her behaviors that the therapist highlighted, she'll claim I'm twisting it to control her. Somehow, even therapy becomes another weapon in her arsenal. But still I go, I show up and I talk. I tell myself that maybe deep down she does want to change. That maybe this is just a defense mechanism, fear or trauma or pressure boiling over. I want to believe that she's still the person I married under all of this, that maybe she's just lost too. Then there are the apologies. They come in waves. Sometimes right after a fight, sometimes a few days later. She'll cry, say she doesn't know why she acts that way, say she's afraid of losing me, that she wants to get better. And for a moment, I believe her. We'll have a couple of good days. She'll be softer, kinder, more open. We'll talk about things we haven't talked about in months. She'll make dinner and ask how work was and act like we're us again. But it never lasts. Give it time, something small will snap her back. A missed text, a misinterpreted look, a word she takes the wrong way, and the whole cycle starts over. I try to brace myself, try to remember that the good days aren't a promise, just a pause. But it still catches me off guard every time. I live in this exhausting loop now. Hope, crash, repeat. Sometimes I wonder if I'm addicted to those brief moments of peace. If I cling to the good wife version of her because it reminds me of how things used to be. Because it lets me pretend that version could return for good if I just hang on a little longer. But deep down, I think I know better. We're not healing, we're circling. And every lap chips away at something I don't know how to rebuild. It's strange how fast your own mind can turn on you. When the same argument happens again and again, you start to question which version of reality is real. I'll replay our fights in my head, trying to figure out when I crossed the line, what I said wrong, where I could have softened my tone, reworded a sentence, swallowed a truth instead of speaking it. But then I'll remember how she looked at me, eyes narrowed, voice. Sharp words so specific in their cruelty that they could only come from someone who knows you deeply. She knows how to cut in a way no stranger could. She says I'm weak, that I don't know how to handle conflict like a man should, that I make things worse by dragging things out. Sometimes she calls me a child, says I can't take a joke, that I blow everything out of proportion. I used to defend myself. Now I just go quiet. The thing is, when you hear something often enough, it stops feeling shocking. It starts to sound like the truth. And when that happens, you stop trusting yourself. You start wondering if maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you are the one holding everything back. Maybe she's right, and if you were stronger, more confident, more manly, this wouldn't be happening. I've lost count of how many times I've cried in the bathroom quietly with the water running. It's not even the words that break me most, it's the tone. That mixture of exhaustion and disgust in her voice, like she's tired of me simply existing the way I am. And then somehow I still blame myself. I wonder if I'm being too emotional, too fragile. I tell myself to toughen up, to stop expecting affection or support. Just push through, do the work, be the provider, be the father. Be the version of a man that doesn't need soft words or gentle hands. But something about that feels hollow. It feels like I'm playing a role I never auditioned for, hoping I'll eventually believe the script. Sometimes she'll act sweet again briefly. She'll laugh at something I say or brush my arm as she walks past, and for a second, I feel seen again. But it never lasts. It's always followed by something that reminds me of my place. A jab, a list of things I forgot. A condescending you never learn. It's a constant mental whiplash. Hope, humiliation, repeat. The other day she told me I was lucky she still put up with me. That anyone else would have left me by now. I didn't respond. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't trust myself not to break if I opened my mouth. I just stared at the floor and nodded. I think that's the worst part, not the words themselves, but how used to them I've become. How much they've shaped the way I see myself. I used to feel solid. Now I feel like a mirror someone keeps tapping until the cracks start to spread. I wonder what our son will see when he grows up. Will he think this is normal? Will he see the wear in my eyes and think this is what love looks like? That marriage is supposed to feel like tension, like suppression, like survival. I want better for him. I want better for me. But wanting and acting aren't the same. And right now, I'm still here. Still hoping tomorrow might be one of the good days. I've thought about leaving more times than I can count. Not out of spite, not even out of anger, just to breathe. Just to see if I remember who I am when I'm not bracing for the next explosion or apologizing for things I don't understand. But the second I start to imagine packing a bag, reality crushes down on me. There's our son, barely a toddler. He doesn't know what's happening. He just sees two parents who sometimes hug, sometimes don't talk for hours. He reaches for both of us the same. And that's the problem. I can't be the one who disappears. I can't be the father who walks away even for good reasons. He's the tether that keeps me in place when everything else is fraying. And then there's my job. It doesn't pay enough for 2 homes, 2 lives. If I left, where would I go? We don't have family nearby. I have no siblings. I could crash with no best friend's couch to land on. I can't afford an apartment, daycare, legal help. I can't even afford the idea of starting over. People say, just leave like it's a door you can open without consequence. But when you're a parent, that door is bolted shut by responsibility. And part of me still wants to believe that staying is noble, that enduring this is somehow for his benefit. I get up every morning and go through the motions, make coffee, pack his bag, handle bills, fix whatever's broken in the house. It's like I'm running a ship. I'm no longer captain of keeping things afloat while steering into storms I didn't choose. Sometimes I fantasize about small escapes. Renting a cheap hotel room for a night just for silence. Going on a drive with no destination just to remind myself I have some kind of freedom. But I never do. Even the fantasy feels selfish. She accuses me of being cold now, of shutting down. She says I'm not present, that I parent robotically, that I don't look at her the way I used to. And she's not wrong. I'm here, but I'm not whole. I'm functioning, not feeling. I give what I have, but I'm running on fumes. I've asked myself what kind of father I'm being, what example I'm setting. Is it worse to stay in a broken marriage for the sake of stability, or to show him what courage looks like and leave? The answer shifts with the hour. Some days I feel like staying is strength. Other days I feel like I'm modeling submission, teaching him that love means enduring disrespect in silence. I try to tell myself that it's temporary, that things might change, that people evolve. But I've been whispering that same script to myself for over a year now. And still here I am. Every time I consider reaching out to a hotline, a counselor just for me, I stop myself. I don't know what I'd say. My wife's mean to me. It sounds childish when I imagine the words out loud. And yet the weight it carries is anything but. I stay because I love my son. I stay because I don't want to destroy the tiny thread of family we've stitched together. But I also stay because I don't know who I'd be without this life broken as it is. There's a kind of loneliness that sinks into your bones when you realize no one really knows what's going on behind your front door. I go to work, make small talk with coworkers, respond to messages with emojis and polite replies. From the outside, I look fine, maybe a little tired, a little quieter than I used to be, but functional. Present. No one asks the real questions. No one sees the erosion. I haven't told anyone about what's happening. Not my parents, not my colleagues, not the few friends I still talk to in passing. There's a shame to it, a shame I can't fully explain. It's not just that I'm embarrassed, it's that I don't even know where I'd begin. How do you tell someone your wife hits you, that she controls your life, your thoughts, your voice without sounding weak or unbelievable? I've tried once or twice to open the door to it. I remember texting an old friend a while back, vaguely mentioning that things were tough at home. He responded with a joke about married life, tossed in a shrug emoji, and moved on. I didn't follow up. I haven't tried again since. Sometimes I'll scroll through Reddit or anonymous forums in the middle of the night, reading posts from other people in relationships that sound like mine. It helps in a strange way to see my experience mirrored in someone else's words. But it also deepens the ache, because it reminds me how isolated I really am. How many people live like this in silence, afraid of what will happen if they speak, afraid of what it means if they don't? She always says I overreact, that I read too much into things, that I twist her words. But if that's true, why do I feel like I'm constantly underwater fighting to catch a breath? There are days when I'll fantasize about someone noticing, a neighbor hearing one of our arguments through the wall, a coworker pulling me aside and saying, "Are you okay?" But no one ever does. And even if they did, I don't know if I'd have the courage to answer honestly. Because what if they confirm what I already suspect, that this isn't normal, that this isn't just a rough patch, that this is something darker, something I need to escape? And what if I can't? My world feels small, shrinking, like I'm boxed into a life I built with good intentions but now can't get out of without breaking everything. And there's no soft landing. No spare bedroom waiting. No one who knows me well enough to say, "You deserve more than this." It's hard to explain how isolating it is to be the only one carrying the truth. To eat dinner across from someone who hurt you hours ago, smile for your child's sake, and pretend everything's fine. To feel like your voice has no place, not even in your own story. The worst kind of prison isn't physical. It's the one built from guilt, fear, and obligation. And even though I still leave the house, still clock into work, still function, I know I'm trapped. Not by her alone, but by the silence I helped create. There's something about guilt that lingers longer than any insult. Long after the yelling fades, after the cold shoulders thaw, after the house is quiet again, the guilt still hums in my chest. Because I did mess up. Not in the ways she accuses me of daily, but in one very real way. A way that shifted the foundation of our marriage whether I wanted it to or not. It was early in our relationship, just before our son was born. She caught me watching steamy movies. And I don't mean some big betrayal, no secrets, no subscriptions, no hidden files, just a dumb moment of impulse during a low point. Still, to her, it was a bomb. I apologized. We had a long, emotional conversation. I promised it wouldn't happen again, and I've kept that promise. But something broke in her that day. The trust cracked. And from that moment on, she began keeping score. Every argument since has found its way back to that moment, as if everything wrong with us stems from that single act. As if it gave her the moral high ground to control everything else. She brings it up like a scar she won't let heal. If I disagree with her, she says I'm still not honest. If I ask for space, she says I'm probably hiding something. If I ask for respect, she reminds me of how I disrespected her first. I get it, I do. Trust is fragile. But this isn't rebuilding, it's punishment. Ongoing, daily, strategic. And what makes it worse is that I've internalized it. I carry that guilt like armor, letting her treat me however she wants because I feel like I deserve it. That one mistake, no matter how small or human, now defines the entire dynamic of our marriage. I let it disqualify me from having boundaries. She doesn't hit me during those fights. She doesn't need to. Her words are sharper than her hands when she's like that. And I let them land. I stand there nodding, apologizing again and again like I haven't already paid for it 100 times. And deep down, I think she likes that power. Not consciously, she'd never admit that, but there's a way her voice softens after she's leveled me like a storm clearing, like she's found peace in watching me crumble. What I haven't told her, what I've barely admitted to myself, is that I don't think what I did should have destroyed us. I think it was wrong, yes. But I also think forgiveness is supposed to be followed by healing. And instead, I've been living inside a cage disguised as repentance. I've asked myself if I'm just being weak, if other men would have fought back, more demanded their dignity, walked away without guilt. But the truth is, I stayed because I loved her, because I believed we could move forward, because I thought I owed her. But now I wonder if she ever intended to move forward at all, or if that one mistake became the excuse she needed to reshape me into someone she could control. I don't want to be defined by the worst thing I've done, and I don't think anyone deserves to be, especially when they've spent every day since trying to be better. But try telling that to someone who's made your guilt their power source. Some nights I lie awake staring at the ceiling and ask myself the same question over and over: what is love supposed to feel like? Not the romanticized version in movies or the early buzz of dating. Not the promises we made in front of friends and family, but love, real love, the kind you live with long after the wedding photos have faded. Because if it's supposed to feel like this, like bracing, like silence, like apologizing for who you are, then maybe I don't understand it at all. There's a difference between compromise and control, between sharing a life and being absorbed into someone else's. I didn't see the line until it was already behind me. And now I'm standing in this strange space where everything I do feels like either rebellion or surrender. She says everything should be shared. My stuff is hers, her decisions are ours, my opinions are negotiable. But when I need something, it's different. Suddenly, I'm making a big deal being difficult starting something again. The rules shift depending on who's speaking. She told me once that we're partners, that we chose each other for life. But I don't feel chosen anymore. I feel claimed. And I don't know how long a person can survive that. I think that's what hurts the most, not the insults or the control or even the guilt. It's the realization that somewhere along the way, I stopped being seen as a person with his own thoughts, fears, joys. I became an accessory to her needs, a tool for her emotional narrative. When she's happy, we work. When she's not, I'm the reason. I still look at her and see flickers of who she used to be. Sometimes I'll catch her laughing with our son, and for a moment it's like nothing's wrong. Like maybe this is just a rough patch, and we're both tired and everything is harder with a kid. But the moment passes, the light dims, and the weight returns. I used to speak freely. Now I run everything through a filter in my head. Will this upset her? Will she take this the wrong way? Will this be another argument I'm not allowed to win? And in those quiet hours, I wonder what love without fear feels like. What a marriage with mutual respect and autonomy actually looks like. What it would mean to have space, not just physical, but emotional space, to be myself and still be accepted. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not asking for endless praise or to never have conflict. I just want safety. Not the kind that locks the door at night, but the kind that lets you exhale when you walk through it. The kind that doesn't make you second-guess your worth every time you open your mouth. Maybe that's too much to want. Or maybe it's just the bare minimum. I don't know what I'll do yet. I don't know if I'll stay forever or finally gather the courage to go. But I do know that silence is not the same as peace, and staying is not the same as being loved. All I know for sure is that I can't keep living like I'm invisible in my own story. I deserve to be seen, not just by her, but by myself.